Welcome to episode 87 of Broad Street Hustle. It's our post-Christmas show, and for you YouTube viewers, you can see we have a new Barbie dream house in the background. The kids were very excited to receive that. This is episode 87 of Broad Street Hustle. I'm your host, Tommy Nanny. We're going to bring you the typical Eagles recap. We're not going to go in depth. It's starting to get a little boring. It's the same thing every week. We got two games left. They're making the playoffs. Blah blah. We'll give you the prediction. We're going to talk about the NFL, specifically the top end of the NFL, that Niners-Ravens game, and where do we sit with who's best, etc. And then we got some as we lead into the new year, 2024 predictions, hot take, whatever you want to call it. You'll see when we do the segment. And then our recaps and picks. I got Jason Sayeta with me. Jason's a little under the weather, so excuse him.
Yeah, not feeling great today. But did you put that together yourself? That Barbie?
So I can't really get into it because in case the kids are listening. But this was not purchased from a retail store, so it kind of came intact. You get them much cheaper and they're put together. So
Got you.
We got and to answer your question, I would not have put it together even if it was brand new.
I didn't think so.
We got Jimmy the Chalk. James?
That stuff usually goes to Tommy's brother-in-law, but it sounds like the Barbie house was delivered by DeVito after it fell off the back of a truck because he doesn't have much of a career in the NFL anymore at this point, it looks like.
And we got Christopher Michael Meeker.
What's up, guys?
What's up? All right, let's just jump right into it. Like I said, we're not going to really go in-depth about the Eagles. I mean, I'll start same exact as every week. They finally started to outgain their opponent. They were dominating, and then the mistakes happened. The turnovers happened, which has happened every game pretty much this year. And it turned out to be a close game in the end. They won it. They played a very, very bad team in the Giants. Ed DeVito is horrific as an NFL. How Tyrod Taylor was not the quarterback is just, it was just for the show, I would assume, because of all the stuff going on. The Giants are terrible. Eagles squeak by because they continue to make mistakes. I think, again, I said it all year, the league this year is iffy. The Eagles could certainly still go on a run, but they're going to have to play, 3 to get to the Super Bowl or 2. Perfect game where they don't turn the ball over. Their defense actually causes turnovers. It could happen, but it's also week 17, and they've turned the ball over in almost every game. So is it going to happen? I don't know. Jason?
Yeah, you kind of thought that they would win that game a little easier than they did. Just to touch real quick on DeVito, like, if you have him as your quarterback, why aren't you designing runs for him? Like, what is that game plan? Like,
they didn't throw the ball, past 7 yards? I think when he's the quarterback.
So you got to start being creative and designing whatever. But Tyrod Taylor's totally a better quarterback now. Are they trying to tank? Maybe that's why DeVito's playing. But now Taylor's playing this week. So I don't know what the hell they're doing. But anyway, who cares? For the Eagles, they turned the ball over. Hurts. I'm not going to blame Hurts on that. Goddard slipped. Like, if he's throwing the ball in anticipation, there's nothing you can do. If the guy slips, the ball's where Goddard should be. So you give him a break on that.
No, but what's more to me, real quick, what's more important, and forget about Hurts, is what led to the turnover was an A.J. Brown drop that would have put him at the 15-yard line.
And actually, the pass before that by Hurts should have been intercepted, if you guys remember.
I don't remember.
That
was that the play right before? I know he threw a scream that was right into the Giants guy dropped it. But
that was the play right before.
So, and the first down play, or the second down play, I guess it was a 10-yard block in the back. So now it's 2nd and 20 on that Goddard play. So it was like the mistakes are what led to the turnover, which was another mistake.
Yeah. And then, of course, the special teams. That was Keystone Cops. I don't know what the hell what happened there. But bad. And they had to sweat out the end. Now, I know somebody was I saw on Twitter people are complaining that there was blatant pass interference. I didn't get to see the play over again to see what happened, but they were like the Giants.
Now, Waller completely threw Roby out of the end zone first, and then the next guy came and picked him up and rolled. Waller just, flopped it, looked like. Nah, that was nothing.
But
Nothing.
anyway, yeah, I mean, they won, but not as impressively as you would hope.
Yeah, chalky.
I mean, both sides of the ball showed glimpses of what you would hope to see if you think they can make a deep playoff run. It was 20-3 at halftime, and aside from the lack of awareness on Hurts' part of not getting out of bounds, the first half was pretty decent. And then in the blink of an eye in the second half, I mean, you look at, San Francisco, they were dominated the whole game, and Dallas was a blowout, but they turned the ball over 3 times in Dallas' territory. You look at the other 2 losses, it's because they consistently turned the ball over, and they lost to the Jets, they lost to the Seahawks, and they kept the Giants in the game when they basically had them dead to rights. And, Taylor played better than DeVito, but it's not like, they got that 70-yard touchdown or whatever, and they moved a little more. But, I mean, the Eagles gave them 15 of the 25 points that they got, right? So they can't do that against better teams and win in the playoffs. And Giants are not a good, their line is not good. And the pass rush, they got 1 sack, a couple pressures, but they weren't really that effective on the pass rush. So good signs, but I mean, they should have, obviously those mistakes, they were able to win the game because the Giants are a bad team.
Mika, you want to tie it up for us?
Yeah, I mean, just the bright spots. I mean, we talked about last week how Hurts has been like kind of locking in on receivers and not using the center of the field. Well, in this game he did. And he got everybody in the game. Brown, Smith, Goddard all had productive games. I think they ran the ball effectively, obviously. I think it was a get-right game for the offense, for sure. They were playing a bad team, so granted. I mean, I think that we all expected them to get right. It's the first time they scored 30 points since the Buffalo game. But defensively, I think they played okay. I don't think they played great. I think the bright spot was Shaq Leonard. I think he had a pretty good game after we kind of buried him last week. But, they still have some issues in the secondary, but they're about to get healthy. Apparently, Maddox is back for this week, and they're going to get Slay back and Cunningham as well. So I think the most important thing with the Eagles going into these last 2 games really is just to stay healthy, stay the number 2 seed, and get, they're getting healthier as they move into the playoffs and getting some key position players back. And as long as they're healthy going into the playoffs, they have as good a shot as anybody after what we saw this week. But I guess we're going to touch on that here pretty soon.
Okay. All right. Anything else, or you want to talk briefly on the Cardinals game and shoot a prediction?
I just want to say one thing. I know, and I didn't get to. I don't know if they did a QB school on Hurts this week. I didn't really get to look at the video much, but a couple blips I saw. Martindale calls a lot of blitzes. Hurts struggled again with the blitz, although I think it was with the 3rd and 20 play, he actually stepped up and made a really nice throw to make that. But one of the things I saw on Twitter is like either he's not checking and calling a hot route at the line, but when they expect a blitz, or you should be in theory expecting a blitz, like these receivers are running 10-yard routes. So whether it's on him to make a check at the line and call a hot route, or the coordinator to call a different play that gives him a quicker out, that's part of his trouble, is because he's getting blitzed, he's got to move because his receivers are still 2 or 3 yards from getting to a break or trying to get open, and they got to figure something out with that.
Yeah, I actually had that. Go ahead, Jason.
I was just going to say, I know that quarterback school guy always brings it up that they don't have hot routes.
No,
I don't think it's Hurts. I think it's the play design.
It doesn't seem like they have the design. I'm sure Hurts has the option to check into a route if he wants, but he's not doing it, obviously. So,
yeah, that was in my notes. I had actually written, and I assume it's the quarterback, but they're and Jason touched on this a couple times in the shows. They, especially with those blitzes, their blocking assignments are awful. They were blitzing. They shifted the guys to the left when you could clearly see the right side was going to blitz, and they did. And both 2 guys came in on Hurts, and it's like, is that Kelsey? Is that Hurts? I mean, typically it's the quarterback, I would think, but I don't.
Yeah, but with Kelsey being such a Hall of Fame center, I would think he's got a lot to say about.
Yeah, it's weird, right? I mean,
and
that happened a couple times on those blocks, on those blitzes. That it was just like nobody was really. There was a couple guys that were kind of free. That's a good point. All right. Well, with that said, what do we think this week against the lowly Arizona Cardinals, Jason?
Yeah, I just heard a little while ago that apparently Murray's sick. So I don't know, how sick he is, but if he's sick enough the way Hurts was sick, they have no chance. I mean, I thought if he was healthy that they were going to put up points too, because I'm still not convinced this Eagles defense is anything. Obviously, the Eagles will put up points against Arizona, so I'm going to say if Murray's healthy, they'll keep it within a touchdown. That the Eagles will still win. If Murray doesn't play, I mean, and I'm not a big Murray fan at all, but I just think he'll run around and he'll, their tight end's pretty good. He'll make a couple of plays. If he doesn't play or if he's sick, I think the Eagles will, win by double digits. But if he plays and he's not sick, I think it'll be a one-score game. I don't see the Eagles blowing anybody out.
Meeker?
I just wonder if Gannon's return means anything with this game, when it comes to, whether or not he just knows the players and Sirianni enough to make it close. I don't really think it will be close. The Eagles haven't really played a running quarterback other than Josh Allen all year, so I'm not sure if that's going to have an effect on the game, if it's going to come into play. They do have a couple of good, offensive players in Connor and McBride, Brown, so forth. I mean, but I think it's another get-right game for the Eagles, and I just like to see their defense play a little bit better. I think they're going to win 34-17 will be my prediction. And just continue to get healthy and hope that nothing tragic happens in these last two games with injuries.
Yeah, it's the last game we got to worry about up at the Meadowlands on that turf for injuries. I mean, I'll jump in just because I was close to Meeker. I had 38-17 Eagles. I just think Arizona is not a very good team. Their defense is bad. Murray, just like Jason said, can run around, but I mean, ultimately their offense is not very good either. So 38-17.
They did play pretty well last year, though. I mean, I know it's not the same year, it's not the same team, but they were a Murray slide away from one more yard of continuing that game and possibly winning it. I don't know if that means anything this year, but it was close last year.
I mean, I remember, but I don't. What that game was, it sandwiched between like divisional. I mean, there's a lot of factors.
I think it was game 5.
Yeah,
it was early in the season. Yeah.
Chalky.
The Cardinals defense I was seeing is ranked like 32nd in the league in a lot of metrics. Yeah. So this has to be a game where the offense scores, or they got to put up 30 something points again this week if you want to have any kind of good feeling coming out of it. If Murray plays, I'll say 31-24 Eagles. If Murray doesn't play, I'll say 31-13 Eagles. I just hope they run Gannon out of town because he, his nonsense cost him Vic Fangio as a defensive coordinator, and then we wouldn't have had all that other drama and other stuff. So we can blame everything that's gone bad this year directly on Gannon. So
okay. All right, let's move on. It's like I said, the Eagles are starting to be a little boring. They need playoffs to start. All right, the NFL. So we saw the Cowboys lose to Miami, right? We saw, what else did we see this week? In the favor of the Eagles, a lot of good things. Detroit struggled with Minnesota. They won. Cleveland is starting to assert themselves as possibly one of the better teams in the league. We saw, earlier, Buffalo almost lose to the Chargers, which Buffalo was on a tear. So it's just a crazy league. But the highlight was, we saw the Raiders beat the Chiefs on Christmas Day. But the highlight in the game of the week, and for Jason, it was one of his picks, so I'll let him start, was the Niners-Ravens, possibly a Super Bowl preview, as some said, the top two choices for the Super Bowl. We kind of seen Purdy come back to earth. We've seen the Niners get out physical, and they're usually the team that's more physical. What does it mean? Is it just one of those games? Do we see a power shift? Are the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, like Meeker predicted, for real to have a legitimate shot at the Super Bowl? Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, listen, it was a total ass-kicking. I underestimated Baltimore and overestimated the 49ers, at least in that game. I'm not going to be a prisoner in the moment with Purdy. He was awful, had a terrible game. You could go up, you could go through each of his interceptions. The first one was totally his fault and a terrible read. I know Shanahan had brought up his others and said really weren't his fault. I thought the third one was his fault. Like you don't throw that ball into the middle of the field.
I mean, even the second one, the guy was coming at him. He tried to throw it over him, and he didn't get it over him. And
but most of the time that ball just gets batted down. It doesn't pop up in the air or anything.
Yeah, but it's still. I blame him. Yeah, right. It's still a risky throw.
I don't blame him on that. Anyway, I mean, listen, you throw 4 interceptions, you're not going to win the game, bottom line. So, and it's going to cost him the MVP, which sucks for me. But
he went from -200 to like plus 16.
That's ridiculous.
I thought that was ridiculous. I thought that was ridiculous.
That's
too.
ridiculous. I mean, come on. Like he's below 2 in now. Come on.
I thought that was ridiculous too.
Yeah, I mean that's ridiculous. What if he throws eight touchdowns in the next 2 games and Jackson loses to Miami? And plays terrible.
I thought it was the line that was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and it's not like Jackson is all that like far and away. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So listen, Shanahan. I got totally out coaching that game. I don't think he did Purdy any favors in the first couple of drives. They threw the ball on every.
Yeah, McCaffrey wasn't touching it. It was weird.
What was that game?
And the drive McCaffrey touched it was their first touchdown drive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. So I still stand by them being the best team in the NFC. I still stand by them being the best team in the NFL. I mean, am I as confident that they're going to win the Super Bowl as I was? No. I still think they will. I just think, it was one of those games. And I was going to mention this last week, and I didn't. But, I almost would rather, in a game where it might be a rematch coming, I would almost rather lose the first game because then you can make the adjustments. Whereas, Baltimore's not going to make any adjustments because, what do they have to adjust?
Yeah, and you got the bulletin material of being,
right.
I
would got your ass kicked. Yeah, exactly. So, am I as confident as I was? No, but like you said, and I always say, Lamar Jackson has to prove it in the playoffs. I mean, I'm not ready to say Baltimore is going to the Super Bowl. So,
early in that game when it was close, Jackson he was actually not playing well.
He was throwing balls behind guys.
Yeah, he was bad. It was once they kept getting the turnovers and kept getting the opportunities.
The thing that cracks me up, though, is on Twitter. Everybody's couldn't wait to take shots at Purdy because they don't want to admit that they were wrong, that the guy's a good quarterback. So that stuff just, that's just annoying to me. But
some of the ex-players going after him is kind of a little.
That's annoying because they don't want to admit that they were wrong. But anyway, again, maybe I see value now if the 49ers get back, get them again in the Super Bowl because I'll be betting them.
Chalky, any thoughts of that and any other power shifts in the NFL? The Browns, for instance, but
I can't buy Joe Flacco going back to the Super Bowl again at this point after he was out of the league basically the last 2 years. But that defense, I guess he wouldn't be he might be the worst quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl if they were to win at this stage of his career. But just the 49ers Ravens game real quick. I mean, not only the turnovers, but the fact that some of those turnovers came 1 or 2 plays into the 49ers drive after an 8 or 10 play drive on Baltimore with the ball before. And so, that defense was just worn out completely. It wasn't like they were getting a couple minutes break before an interception. It was one was on the first play, one was on 3 plays. So, and, Baltimore had a couple long drives and didn't even score touchdowns on a lot of them. They had a couple long field goal drives. But anyway, I think Purdy's going to be a system quarterback until he doesn't do something with Shanahan. And that's fair or not. That's going to be the rap on him because he was the last guy taken in the draft. And if they had a first overall pick, maybe it wouldn't be, but they're going to say, look, Shanahan made Garoppolo look good. He wasn't that good anywhere else. Now he's making Purdy look good.
I mean, made Matt Ryan an MVP too.
I mean, that's the benefit of playing with a guy like Shanahan is he can make you look good. But the negative part is unless you have that pedigree, if Brady would have went there instead of Tampa Bay, it wouldn't have been, Brady's playing well because Shanahan's his coach. But that's what's, being Mr. Irrelevant, that's going to be the knock on Purdy until he's not with Shanahan probably, which is not fair necessarily. But I'll say with them, I haven't seen it since I know, but Jason and I talked yesterday. If Williams is hurt and he's not effective, that's huge because he's the best left tackle in the game. And if Purdy is going to be under pressure, like most quarterbacks in the league, that's going to affect him. And that's really, they can really probably not afford to lose anybody other than Purdy, would be Williams on the offense at this point. I'm McCaffrey, but I mean, if Purdy's under pressure, like most quarterbacks, he'll make some of those throws. So, Baltimore, again, just like Jason, they got to prove in the playoffs. I think Jackson's 1-3 in playoff games at this point or something. He's been MVP. They've had the number 1 seed and not delivered in the playoffs. And there's no wide open. I mean, they're the front runner right now as far as the betting, but San Francisco really didn't drop in the odds. They were like maybe 2-1. Now they're 2.5-1. So it's not like Baltimore jumped them as the favorite in Vegas right now. So AFC is going to be interesting because I don't have a really good read, and those teams are up and down. And you could say Cleveland's playing better, but I mean that offense is just going to crap out at some point. But Stefanski might also be coach of the year.
I think that plays into the odds of the Super Bowl too, is the Niners in the NFC versus the Bucs
getting there, absolutely,
Miami,
yeah.
You know, all the teams. So, Meeker.
So Tom, in the past, I guess, and it was emotional when you said it, like that when this team, particularly the Niners, get punched in the mouth, they unravel a little bit. And would you say that kind of happened in this game?
I mean, they have not won a game facing adversity yet. They're similar to Dallas, I guess, who actually did come back in their game, but they've been front running the games that I think Shanahan ends his career when he's trailing by 7 or more in the fourth quarter. He's never won a game.
Yeah, trailing at halftime, his record's pretty bad, I think, when they're trailing at halftime. They say they're not built to come from behind, but who really builds their team to come from behind in the second half? I don't know.
It's not that they're built for it. It's just that they don't. Yeah, he doesn't call the offense.
His offense is not. Yeah. He can't come from behind at halftime, which but.
Yeah. So a little bit.
That if you're controlling the game, you have a game plan that you can stick to. If you're not,
they're a little bit. I mean, they're bullies. They got Fred Warner, they got Greenlaw, they got Debo. Big physical bully guys that when you punch them in the face, sometimes they back down a little bit. But if they're the aggressor, that they're able to, and that's why a lot of their games have been like runaways. They're winning by 15, 18, especially against Dallas, the Eagles. They're just smoking them because they bullied them from start to finish.
I just think your quarterback throws 4 interceptions. I'm not going to blame the rest of the team. Like the defense, like Chalky said, the defense is on the field, back on the field, immediately.
Yeah, but also he threw 4, but the line wasn't very. I mean, they were getting pressure on him quick. The D-backs were winning the one-on-one battles with the receivers. Outside of Kittle, there wasn't really guys open. I mean, Kittle was the only one that was.
And he even lost the battle on that second or the third interception.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
Purdy shouldn't have threw that ball. But,
I think Baltimore is a good stylistic matchup defensively. They got guys that can play. Hamilton is in the MVP. I don't think he's going to win it, but he's in the MVP conversation, with the kind of year he's having. So you got the Eagles don't have anybody that's half as good as him in the defensive backfield right now. And they can go. He can cover McCaffrey, he can cover Kittle, and let the D-backs do their thing on the outside. Stylistically, I think it was a good matchup, but second time around, I mean, Shanahan has never impressed me as far as in-game management and adjustments. But he scripts out, prepares well, and if they hit the ground running, he doesn't have to change. So,
and what hurt him there was Purdy's first interception on the opening drive.
They were moving right down the field.
These, they should have scored. They were going to score.
And I mean, they didn't panic right away. The Eagles, they looked terrible in the first 2 drives, and they didn't panic. The Eagles didn't get them down either. They could have had them down 14-0. But if this was to be the Super Bowl matchup, I would expect a much quicker start from the 49ers because I think that rematch, they'll probably have something a little different. And as long as they can execute it, they'll get the jump on them, I think, in a rematch.
So, I mean, I just don't think the Niners are what everyone thought they were. I mean, they're a beatable team. They're not Bill Walsh's Niners. They're not, Brock Purdy is not Joe Montana. He's not Steve Young. He's a good game manager with exceptional talent around him. And if he gets pushed around, I'm not sure
he's not a game manager.
Him and this coach.
He's not a game manager. That's weak. That's a weak, lazy comment. Watch quarterback.
I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. I'm not saying.
He's not a game manager. He's not. Get that. He's not Brad Johnson. Get that out of your head. He's weak.
He's
that's
better
a weak,
than those
lazy
guys.
comment. Watch tape and then call him a game manager.
Offensive team, right? They have exceptional offensive talent on this team. So you can't tell me if you throw another quarterback that's better than average, he's not going to have success on this team.
He's not going to put up historic numbers like he put up in the first 14 games of the year. He's not going to. He's put up almost the best numbers in the last 25 years in the first 14 games of the year. He had a bad game. Not a game manager.
A very bad game. But
he had a very bad game.
I think they're the best team in the NFC in a year that the NFC is really not that good. Let me just put it to you that way. But the question will be in the playoffs, is there a team in the NFC like the Eagles, Cowboys, or Lions that can take this kind of blueprint that we saw from the Ravens win and use that to beat them in a game? And do these teams, these three teams I just mentioned, which are the likely opponents that they may have, do they have the kind of talent on defense?
Well, I was going to say, unless the Eagles get new players, the blueprint isn't going to work.
The Eagles' blueprint
Correct.
would have to be, instead of being up 6-0, they got to be up 14-0 if they get two good drives, and then see how San Francisco reacts to that. It was still a one-score game,
And
they
their
completely flipped
linebackers
it
would have
around.
to go on the field with a sledgehammer to be as physical as the Ravens team.
If you I don't know, turn the clock back to last year and Purdy doesn't get hurt, that would be the game that you would have had, because I think the Eagles defense last year was very comparable to like the Ravens defense this year. But they're not that, and I don't know that any of these defenses that San Fran is going to face in the playoffs is going to give them that kind of matchup. So I still think they're going to go to the Super Bowl. But do I think
this
they're
league,
a super team? No.
This league and this season has shown that when there's not a team that's just able to dominate that, I mean, in this case, it was 4 interceptions, but it takes one turnover. Maybe it's a fluky turnover. Maybe it's whatever. Yeah. That changes the game to where Detroit beats the Niners. Who knows? To me, it's that kind of year in the NFL.
Well, it's football in general, though. I mean, if you win the turnover battle, I'm assuming that you win, most of the time. But with respect to the Ravens, though, I think this. Obviously, Lamar has never delivered in the past, as you guys have said. And this year, with the injuries they have on offense leading up to the playoffs against tough defenses in either Cleveland or Kansas City, or a possible shootout against Miami or Buffalo, will they have the offensive firepower to be able to win those games in the big game? And number 1 seed, I think, is important, and I think they'll be motivated to win this week to make sure that they get it. But again, I'm not sold that they're the best team in the AFC, but they showed that they're probably the class of the AFC at this moment. But this is a week-to-week NFL. They can lose next week, and we're all going to change our tune. And I think the AFC is wild. I think what Chalky said, it's just like an up in the air situation. The NFC maybe not as wild, because I still think San Fran has the edge on most teams, because I just don't think those other teams have the defenses to compete with their offense. But in the AFC, I think it's going to be really interesting, because if they come up against a Buffalo or even a possible Cleveland, it's going to be a tough game, especially Cleveland, because they know them. They play them 2 times a year, so.
All right. Anything else about the NFL for the week, that we haven't covered? I know we specifically wanted to talk about the Niners-Ravens. And, do you guys see any of those surprise teams making a legitimate run? I know last week I mentioned Tampa Bay as a little bit of a shocker team. And the Rams have been playing well. We mentioned Cleveland.
Yeah, I think you mentioned those 2 teams right there. I think the Rams could get to the NFC Championship game. Their offense is running on all cylinders right now. Stafford's playing well if he stays healthy. They could go into Dallas and win. They could go into Detroit and win. They could come here and win. I think Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland just didn't look good on that drive there against the Jets, but Stefanski, he's a good offensive mind, man, and he's designing an offense that's putting Flacco in a position to make plays.
I mean, Flacco's making plays. There was a touchdown that he threw to Njoku last week that was like, he had a feather between defenders, and he made the play. It wasn't a guy was open.
He hasn't held him back.
And that
hasn't held him back.
No,
you think You would think a guy is sitting in the couch for however long, you would hold him
Look
back.
at the
and
quarterbacks
run
that
the
were
ball.
playing before him. They couldn't. They're not. You're not going to make plays with those quarterbacks unless they're running around like a chicken with their head cut off.
Yeah, he even made a couple throwaways. Like, he's under pressure. He moved a little bit and threw the ball away, averted a
Yeah.
sack. Like, smart veteran plays as well.
And that Njoku, he's a star, man. That kid he's a good tight end. He could play. So they're my two underdog teams.
How about you guys? Anything else that wasn't mentioned, or just to reiterate what was mentioned?
I think. I mean, depending on who they draw, I think Detroit can go out in the first round. I'm not high on them right now. Their defense is not anything special, and
If Mullins ain't the quarterback of Minnesota, they probably lose that game last week.
They put the hurting on who was it, Denver, right? But they're a bit of a mess. But they've been struggling most other weeks, and so not that any team other than the 49ers is killing people week after week regularly, but.
Yeah, but
even if they keep the 2 seed,
Yeah.
I guess if they keep the 2 seed, they would have to beat Dallas. If they go and beat Dallas at Dallas, that'll be an impressive win.
Yeah,
But I'm not expecting that. So I'm thinking they're an early out, possibly first round, depending on who they end up. If they get those Rams, the way the Rams have kind of played, if they get that matchup in the dome there, Rams can very easily win that game.
Yeah, that's the thing too. It's not. I don't know how much they're their home field. I mean, they're much better at home, but I don't think it's necessarily a tough place to play. But their disadvantage of having to go on the road, if they have to go into Philly or go in, I don't think they have any chance in a situation where they have to play outside and on the road.
I think KC is an early out this year too. I think they're offensively a mess right now, and I think Mahomes, for the first time, I think in his career, I'm seeing him super frustrated on the field.
You want to talk bad games? How about the game he had?
He threw one pass that there was 3 guys, and it looked like he saw it and just threw it because he was pissed off, like he said, just out of frustration. I think there ended up being a penalty, and it was fine, but it's just it's crazy.
He's a mess. Now, they're not going to draw Cleveland in the first round because more than likely Cleveland's going to be the first wild card, so they're going to get the AFC South winner. So I guess it depends on who they draw, but I could see them going out early, and if they get past the first round, I just don't see them.
They'll be the 3, right?
The 3, right? So
Chiefs
Cleveland
will
will be
be
the
3.
first wild card.
Oh, so they get the 4? Is that
Maybe not. I mean, but if Cleveland keeps winning, that's what it looks like. It could be
Cleveland's
Buffalo
the
or
first
Miami.
wild card. It's just a matter of, are the Chiefs going to have a better record than Jacksonville or Indianapolis, whoever wins that
Yeah,
division.
I guess
So
that's true, too.
right now it's Chiefs Bills.
That's what I was thinking.
Is anybody
yeah.
is anybody taking the Chiefs over the Bills right now?
No way.
I mean, Bills almost lost to San Diego, but there was a couple things going on there. But I can't take Kansas City over them.
I can't take them over anybody right now.
No.
They just look a mess. So I think, this, obviously they're reigning Super Bowl champs. So I think that's not quite an upset, this year because of what we're seeing. But, we wouldn't have thought that in the beginning of the year that they're going to go out in the first round. And the Bills, you just mentioned, I know they didn't play a great game last week, but if they end up either winning that division, which is a possibility, and beat Miami last game of the season, that's a team I think you'd watch in the AFC. They can definitely go to the Super Bowl, and that wouldn't be an upset in my mind. And they're going to be the hottest team going into the playoffs if they win out. So, but in the NFC, I don't know. I still think defensively, like I said earlier, there's not a great defense in the NFC other than the Niners, and that Dallas has got a pretty good defense. But if they're on the road, we've seen how they play on the road, and they're going to have to play on the road to get to a Super Bowl.
I mean,
So
if you look at efficiency numbers, that Tampa Bay defense is actually pretty good. Now, I feel like their schedule, playing the South teams is not been. But I mean, efficiency wise, their defense is top 5.
I mean, and if Mayfield doesn't turn to a pumpkin, he's got 2 great receivers still. So,
Yeah,
I mean, you gotta hand it to Mayfield and Bowles. They're they're doing a nice job this year, both of them.
And maybe
And
Mayfield just matured a little bit too. He doesn't seem like that same head case type of guy he was a couple of other teams he
No,
played for.
he certainly played well. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they beat Dallas in the first round because it looks like that's what's going to happen. But I just don't see them getting to the Super Bowl. I don't think it's that crazy of a year. But stranger
Okay.
things have happened.
All right, let's and for time purposes, let's move on. We are a few days from 2024 as we're in between Christmas and New Year's week. So going into the year, we wanted to say what's going to happen in 2024. You want a hot take, you want a prediction, wherever you want to take it, you can go. I'll start because I have them, kind of set the template. I actually have one kind of take in 3 sports. So I'll start in the NFL since that's where we've been talking. The 49ers nor the Baltimore Ravens will make the Super Bowl in their respective conferences. Let's go to the MLB. The Dodgers will not win the NL. I'm sure everybody has them winning. Will not win the NL. And let's go to the NBA. What's her name? Scott always likes to say, your 76ers will win the NBA Finals this year in 2024. Jason, what do you got?
Well, you see the shirt I got on here, right? I'm not going to go as far as saying they're going to win the championship, but I think they're going to get by the second round this year. I think this is the year they finally get by the second round. I think Morey's going to make a move and bring somebody in. Hopefully it's not Levine. Hopefully it's an Anunoby or Caruso or, Markkanen or Bogdanovich, whatever his name is for the Pistons. One of those guys. So, I think they could get to the finals, but I think for sure they get to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Who stands in their way in the East? Celtics and Milwaukee, the typical
That's it,
teams.
because Cleveland's decimated with injuries, so it's not them. Orlando,
They
nah.
just crushed Orlando.
They're too young.
They're too
not
young.
ready
Yep.
yet. The Knicks, nah. So yeah, Celtics and Bucks.
Okay, Chalky, 2024. What do you got?
All right, I'll give you Sixers do not make what would be considered a big trade before the deadline. So they're not bringing in anybody huge. So that's an OB or bigger, let's say. If it's just Caruso, I wouldn't consider that a big deal. But if it's now, I saw Caruso and Levine together in a speculated deal, which has Harris going back to Chicago, which as much as I'm not big on Levine, if you can get both those guys, it's different. But I'll say they don't make a big trade before the deadline. And 2024 season, so that includes the NFL next year, we'll see a New York team win a championship. New York City team.
Okay, Meeker,
Trying to think which one it would be.
Yankees.
Maybe Yankees,
I'm going to lean heavily on Rangers, Yankees, or maybe the Jets next year.
Rangers. Okay.
All right, so I kind of looked at it more like you did, Tom, and kind of went through 3 sports. So Phillies, I don't see them signing a pitcher until the deadline. Then they'll trade for one if they really need one. I do think they're going to sign a left fielder. I think it might end up being Rosario from the Braves. And I think they're going to sign a closer at some point if they can't figure out who's going to be the closer by mid-season. They'll trade for a closer or something like that. Sixers, I do believe they'll make a move. I think they'll make a move for maybe not a starting piece, but a complementary piece. Somewhere in the Buddy Hield mode, someone who could score. And I can see them getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know that they'll win the Eastern Conference Finals, but I can see it happening. But they do need a little bit more offensive power to compete with Milwaukee and the Knicks. I do not think I'll go back to baseball. I do not
Knicks.
think the Dodgers. Huh?
Knicks or
What did I say?
Knicks.
Bucks. I'm sorry. And I do not think the Dodgers are going to win the World Series. I agree with you, Tom. And for the Eagles, I mean, we're just concentrating on this year, not next year. I still think they can make the NFC Championship. And if the ball bounces their way and they get a couple turnovers in that game, if they're playing San Fran, that's the way that they'll win it. They could possibly still get to the Super Bowl. I'm not going to predict that yet until we get there. But and the Flyers. What about the Flyers, Jay? You think they can make a deal for an actual
No.
scorer?
This is
Should we even
Chalk-
go down that road?
Chalky. Please
I-
cut the Flyer talk in production. Thank you.
I just
I can't wait for
They're
them. I
playing
can't
well,
wait for them to
right?
trade for Gaudreau because then we'll be, But
they should be losing. They should be pulling a Sam Hinkie.
This just goes to show
They're
you.
not good enough.
This just goes to show you how smart Hinkie was. Hinkie took all possibility of possibly winning out of the equation by putting 5 guys who
Where
could
are-
maybe play. He just
Real-
put the worst 5 guys out there.
Real fast Flyers talk. Real fast. Where are all these trades they were supposed to make before the season? They made one trade. They traded Provorov.
Yeah.
They didn't trade anybody else. So
Well,
now
yeah.
you're going to be a middling team and get the 15th pick in the draft again, and we're going to continue to go down this road. Meeker will be all excited. because
Unless
he's
Hart's
dumb.
still on the table.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You have 2 good goalies. Can't you deal one of these goalies and get something
Yes,
back?
they should be trading Hart. They should be trading anybody and everybody.
I mean, by the time the
That's-
Russian comes, some of these other guys are going to be too old. Like,
Nobody on the team right now except the younger kids are going to be relevant by the time. Like, I just don't get it.
but just since you mentioned Hinkie, Hinkie was trying not to win. So what Detroit is doing now, which is rivaling what the Sixers did when they were actually trying to field a very
trying to.
competitive team, is just that much more amazing.
yeah, that's sad. That is.
They're the-
Did you see it?
probably-
I saw it
There's a
on
prediction for you.
on Twitter.
They'll
There
probably
was,
break the record for losses in a season. For sure.
I
the
saw
most
them
bet team,
on
money
Twitter
line
doing the they're like plus 980 doing
They're
a
the most bet money line team of the year so far tonight. Like,
Oh
Is
really?
it tonight?
Yeah, they're playing
If you would have faded them every game, start with $100 bet on the streak, you'd be plus 6 figures right now, which is tough because they're going to be an underdog in every game. But if you faded them, it would have added up that quickly.
Yeah, but I mean 28 games or whatever.
Well,
it
yeah,
is, it's a lot of
that
games.
just shows you how ridiculous it's been as far as.
But there was a
some of those
shootout.
are like minus 300. You're betting the favorite, but
There was a shoot around where like you just see 4 balls all go into the net. They all missed, and then like a guy missed a layup or something like that. It's hilarious. All right, Jason, take us away. Recap the week in the NFL and our picks.
I'm not going very much in depth because my voice is not good. So I'll just say over under is actually an over week, 10 overs versus 6 unders. And the public win 8-7. So I like the public wins more games than they lose every week, which is just ridiculous. But let's get into our games. I went 2-1. I did lose my best bet, which was the 49ers. It only counted as 1 loss, fortunately for me. But I did win the Browns, which was our Twitter pick. We're now 13-6-1 with our Twitter pick. So start spreading the news.
That was a
Nice.
blowout too.
Yeah, we're pretty good with those picks. And then the Chiefs Raiders stayed under, even though Mahomes tried to make it go over on his own, giving the Raiders 14 points. Tommy went 2-1. He did win his best bet with the Bucks. He had the Browns as well, so he won. But he lost the Panthers-Packers, which only counts as one.
I was
vote,
going to
so
say that's luckily only
they
one
scored
loss.
like 80 points
I
in that
think it
game.
was over in the beginning of the second quarter.
Yeah, it's 1 loss. Chalky 1-2. Lost his best bet with the Colts. Lost the Lions-Vikings under, but he won with the Bucks as well. And our boy Meeker, sliding back into Meeker land, 0-3. He's gonna cry about the
Yeah,
Seattle
throw the
pick.
challenge flag on that Seattle.
Well,
line.
you would be denied because you were wrong. We clearly
At
said
the
it.
time I bet it, I wasn't wrong.
First of
so.
all, blame Chalky because he's the one who went on DraftKings and pulled it up, and he was right. I mean, it was 3.5. So that's a loss. The
now
Chiefs-
it was breaking up, but he even acknowledged it had moved because he said that the line was minus 102. They juiced it, but it was minus 102, so it's a loss.
loss. We had a head-to-head with the Chiefs and Raiders, and even though it was
Everything
gonna be
else
a
went
windy day, and you didn't care about any of that stuff, you lost. And then the Colts was a loss, so 0-3. Best bets. I'm not going through our lifetime and all. Best bets. I'm 8-7. Tommy's 8-8. Chalky's now 10-6. Meeker's 8-7. As a pod, we're 37-28. Our record for 2023. I'm 27-20, profit 443, 59% win, 9% ROI. Tommy is 23-25, loss of $304, 48% win, minus 6% ROI. Chalky 22-25, loss 460, 47% win, minus 10% ROI. Meeker's now 22-23. You're on a bad roll, Meeker. You were hot for a while. Loss of $211, 49% win, minus 10% ROI. As a pod, we're now losing. We're 100. Our record's 194, loss of $83, 52% win, minus 4.4% ROI. Overall, all time, I'm 60-39, 61% win. Excuse me, 16% ROI. Tommy 51-43, plus 561, 54% win, 6% ROI. Chalky's 46-54, loss of 1170, 46% win, minus 12% ROI. Meeker's 45-51, loss 930, 47% win. Looks like 10%, minus 10% ROI. Get this. We are 202-187, a loss of $3 all time.
So for $3, you got a lot of bets and a lot of entertainment, and it only cost you $3.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's move into our picks, and I think we're going to start a Broad Street Hustle tradition here for when it's your birthday, and we do have a birthday for one of the guys. When it's your birthday, specifically the day, so happy birthday. But when it's your birthday, I feel like the only thing you should do is you get the honor of going first with picks. So we have that today, and it'll be a tradition we will go carrying forward. Chalky, happy birthday. Your present is you get to go first.
Shouldn't we have some, what's the word, sympathy for Chalky, because doesn't he get jerked around during the Christmas holidays for his birthday because we don't get any presents for his birthday because Christmas came 3 days ago?
Pretty much. I don't get anything anymore. That's life as an adult, but
Well, you get to go first. That's a present.
Yeah,
and
great.
your record is going.
Can I just get Meeker's 3 games? I don't need to know what side he's taking or an over and under. Can I just get his 3 games first? Because I need to know if I got to change my best bet or not. No.
So wait, what's your record when you guys when you have the same pick?
It's awful. If it's just us, it's terrible. No, it's not. It's not. So all right. All right. I'm just going to go down the line in order of kickoff, or at least on the board. Best bet: Dallas minus 5.5, minus 112. They're juicing that the other way, and Meeker probably has that too, right? Is that what I'm seeing here? Great.
It looks like he might.
Oh no.
I mean, it's 5.5, and you're laying extra juice, so that seems high. I'll take Dallas. I'm going to take under 50 in the 49ers Commanders game. That's minus 110. And this one I know you don't have. Tampa minus 2.5, minus 110 against the Saints.
Oh boy.
You might as well just go to me.
All right, Meeker. As you were the most animated during that set.
All right, so yeah. I don't know if you can see this on the screen, but I'm not kidding. So I had Dallas as my best bet. We did not talk before this show.
I'm moving Tampa up to my best bet minus 2.5.
Move it up. Just move that up.
Yeah, we'll slide everything down one. Make Tampa the best bet.
I also had under 50 in San Fran, Washington, minus 110.
This could be a historic.
This might be a bonanza for our
But I
listeners
do not
this
have
week.
the third bet for Chalky, and that's under 44 in Kansas City, Cincinnati. That's minus 110. Check me on that, Chalky, because I don't really know if that changed from 4 o'clock.
Yeah, his
as we know, that's a point of contention. So Cincy KC is you went under 44.
44.
Yeah, 110. That's still the same.
All right, there we go.
At least the folks have 2 like not bet. That's like a solid not bet size now, right? Because
all right, now I'll go. So I've made a lot of these picks this year. It's not the Saints, but these ones where I cringe when I make them. But I'm gonna take the Giants at plus 5.5, minus 105. It was. I think the Rams are starting to get too much hype. With Tyrod Taylor back, I think the Giants could keep that game relatively close in the Meadowlands. So I'll take the Giants. Buffalo, minus 13, minus 110. Patriots coming off a win. Buffalo coming off a real bad game. I see Buffalo just years and years of the Patriots dominant. Buffalo lays it on them. And I'm going to stay with the AFC. What's that, East? And I'm going to take Miami, +3, even. The Ravens, the Ravens were sorry, I'm getting text. The Ravens, I think I said it last week, I forgot. Teams coming off of playing San Fran, like the next week, their record is not great. I feel like the Ravens had their big win. Now they are playing Miami, and it's like Meeker mentioned, it's big for the number 1 seed. So I think it's going to be a close game, and I want the points. So I almost took Miami as a money line bet, but I said, let me just take the points. I'll take the push. Even be happy if it's 3, and I'll take the push. But I'm going to take Miami plus the 3 at even. And it sounds like Jason might have that. Jason?
Short week for Baltimore too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was my 4th pick.
All signs point against Baltimore. My top pick's going to be the Colts minus 3.5 against the horrible Raiders. They just had their Super Bowl.
Yeah, you know what's funny though? The efficiency stats of the Raiders are actually pretty good. Now they had a 60-point game, so I don't know how much it's skewed and stuff.
Take that game away,
right? But I looked at that, and the fact I actually had the Raiders until I looked at the line, and then I saw the line and said that Colts given 3.5. So just something to add.
Yeah, I want the Colts in that game. I think it was minus 110 the last I saw. I don't know. If
108.
Minus 108. Okay. My second pick is going to be the Broncos minus 3.5. That was 110 too. I don't know if that changed since.
3.5, 110.
110. Yeah. I don't think it's a big drop off from Stidham. From Wilson to Stidham. I don't think the players like Wilson. I think the Chargers are complete garbage. They played well last week at home, and now they're probably done after that. They don't, their season's over. That Stick is their quarterback. No thanks. I think your boy Meeker Payton doesn't like Wilson, so he probably wants to have a game plan in there that's going to, knock people's socks off. And I think they're going to win handily over the Chargers in that game.
The reason why they're benching him the last 2 games, well, he doesn't like
his contract.
Yeah, and he can't. If he gets hurt, then he's owed $37 million.
I don't think the team the players like him all that much either. So I could see them playing better with a new quarterback.
Yeah,
yeah.
They supposedly told him in October is what they were going to do. So
Mm-hmm. And then my third pick is Tommy's third pick, Dolphins +3. It's even now, plus 100. So
yeah,
it was even when I looked.
It's even.
Yeah, I think the Ravens, were coming off that big win, and if you look at the big games they won this year, the next game they look terrible, and I just think the same thing's going to happen here. I think the Dolphins could win. I wasn't going to go money line, but I do think they could win the game outright. But I'll take the 3 at plus 100.
I think the only thing is Waddle's out. He's not going to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe he was out, but Wilson looked pretty good against Dallas. To be honest with you, he made. All right, episode 87. We got any touchdown props or plays? Hasn't been too good.
I'm going to go back to the well with Ayuk. I think this Washington defense is terrible. I think they'll get back on track there, and Ayuk's due.
Meeker, Chalky, how about you guys? College football. What about the 2 big games? You guys are both not less necessarily lines. Who wins those games? Bama, Michigan. What are you thinking? You guys are college guys.
I like the. Go ahead, Chalky. I'll let you go first. It's your birthday.
Bama and what's the other game?
Washington, Texas.
Bama and Texas.
I like both underdogs. With the points, I like Bama and I like Washington to win that game.
Yeah, I actually think Michigan, Texas, but Not with the line, just flat out wins. All right. I think.
Stephon Diggs is your touchdown prop.
Okay, Diggs. Like it. Yeah, Patriots are really bad against receivers. Touchdowns. If I remember from a game prior. All right, episode 87, Broad Street Hustle. Next time we talk to you, it will be 2024, episode 88, ever closer to episode 100. So we'll have a special show. Have a great night.